Welcome to another episode of NeverEndingPanel.com. Tonight we have 3 topics and special guests. Let's go with the topics first, then the special guests. The first topic is, how about law enforcement in utopia? What is the minimum number of laws that might be needed? If you need a lot of laws to maintain the utopia, is it really a utopia? Our second panel will be, what will you pay for a night in an orbital hotel? When does space travel become truly economical? And in our series for number 3, In Defense of, we are trying in defense tonight of Land of the Lost. So my panelists tonight, Los Angeles Police Department Officer Lisa Herman, Director James Kerwin, Professor Martin Young, and of course, incredible, indomitable Eytan. So let's start with the first topic. How about law enforcement in utopia? What is the minimum number of laws that might be needed? And if you need a lot to maintain that utopia, is it really a utopia? I open it up to the panel.
I think utopia is a limiting case kind of thing. One of the social indexes of how good a society are we will be how little law enforcement we need.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, the minimum number is going to be 0 because nobody does anything stupid or evil anyway.
People will always do something stupid or evil. I think utopia will be achieved when we develop a technology where the effects of the stupidity or evil are so minor that people don't care. 2,000 years ago, wasting water was a death offense. Now we are literally throwing it away in the middle of a drought. Technology has arrived to the point where lots of things which used to be fatal and severely punished are relatively minor. At some point, if we can develop technology of, resurrection and invulnerability, I think most of our laws will go away and utopia will be right around the corner.
Yeah, I disagree because I think you have to look at the moral and, the ethics of human nature, and there will always be a need for persons and police, and going by technology and using even technology for law enforcement as it's going now, we use a lot of technology. As far as I'm sure you've all ridden around and gotten hit by one of those law enforcement traffic signals, right? And they're not infallible. As well as, the beauty of our republic is that you don't have Big Brother watching you all the time. We have to go, and you're innocent until proven guilty. There's detectives, there's the street patrol officer, as well as having that technology is useful, but there's never going to be a technology to replace within law enforcement to replace an actual person.
Right, I think, and to your point, and Eytan and I discussed this also a bit in our book, that when society itself ends up becoming more of the law enforcement, in other words, the less onerous the laws and the less big the government to try to give you all these laws that nobody could possibly, could not break them without, walking 3 steps, the better your society will be, and maybe that is part of the utopia. Soundman 10.
I was just wondering if perhaps economic changes might bring about our utopia. For example, now that DVD player is $20, there's not really that much reason to steal them. So maybe things might just be so cheap or free that nobody needs to commit crimes anymore.
Okay, that I also disagree, because if you leave your backpack or even a cup or anything that maybe you think of non-value, you'll get burglared from your motor vehicle very quickly. So, suggestion, don't leave anything open in your vehicle. You don't know, people don't steal always for money. People don't always steal for the value of something.
We're not saying that we have utopia now or in the next decade or even in the next 100 years. We're speculating far in the future. And my concern is crimes of abuse, crimes of domination, crimes of weak, twisted people taking out their frustrations on other people. And we can raise people to be healthy. We can raise people to be mentally healthy. We can educate people to solve their problems.
What happens when you can simply change people to fit a preconceived notion, like obey the law?
Right?
Utopia through mind control. I got it.
That was a very, very scary novel by Damon Knight.
Okay, go ahead, James. Yeah.
2 points. One, you are innocent until proven guilty unless you get a parking ticket in Los Angeles. Second of all, in which case there is nothing you can do to contest it, no matter how many witnesses you have. Believe me, I'm in the middle of that experience right now.
Police officers get parking tickets too.
And number 2, just a clarification, Dani, is the question how much law enforcement is required in a utopian society, or how many laws?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think what's happened is the panel has gravitated towards both questions because I think there's this ideal we think of that you're not going to need a lot of law enforcement nor a lot of laws in your ideal society.
So we're talking about maybe there not even being a law against murder, it's just understood, or there would be a law against it, it's just that in a utopian society no one would do it. So it would need to be
or maybe our concept of murder is impossible. Maybe you murder the body, but the brain's existing in the internet.
I know.
And they just build you another body.
Right, so it's not a true
murder.
form
You
of
just get charged with
we have some audience
of growing a new body.
We have some audience members who have some questions who've been waiting very patiently. So within our few minutes, I just want to make sure they get their comments in. Yes.
Well, I think there's a whole question here that isn't being looked at, and that is how far you're willing to go to keep the utopia, and that's a real question here. Alfred Bester in Demolished Man is a perfect example of that. How far were they willing to go? Because there was this one murder towards disrupting their utopia.
That's a very good question.
If it's that easily disrupted, it's not a utopia.
And if you have to use a lot of force to maintain it,
that's a whole thing.
And if you have to change people so that they fit in, it's not a utopia.
Well, there's a lot of and if, and if, and ifs, and it seems to me that we're such an imperfect species that there will be a lot of and ifs no matter how good the technology gets.
Ed, him!
Yes, I want to bring up Brave New World. That was utopian society in which an individual who had too much of some chemical introduced into the mix when he was incubating became a criminal. It was biological. It wasn't societal. It wasn't economic. He was born that way. That happens today a lot.
The dream of the planners. If we can just find the right combination of if, and, or but, we can create the perfect something or majigger.
Right. And not even... Go ahead. Yes.
And then if you start tinkering with the DNA, go see Gattaca, in which you wouldn't have a Mozart or a Beethoven or an Einstein.
But you have a lot of beautiful-looking people.
Yes.
Who can swim really far.
And who are
players.
Who are higher intelligence than the average right now, but you would not have genius anymore.
Right. There was that famous short story, someone remembers, I have his genes but not his genius.
Yes.
Mozart's
They cloned
progeny.
Mozart.
They cloned Mozart. And interestingly enough, just to throw a monkey wrench in with only a minute left, in Thomas More's Utopia, in his world, if you were an atheist, you couldn't be in Utopia because if you thought of, if you didn't believe that there was something higher than yourself to like organize things and run things, then you could never possibly have a society that would work.
Just make one final note in favor of maybe the stricter law enforcement. In Utopia, just imagine how differently the series would have unfolded if in season 1 Wesley had been executed for falling through that greenhouse roof on the utopian planet. And so
I have to agree, that is a good argument.
And on that note, we wrap up this topic of NeverEndingPanel.com. Thank you very much. Take a little bit of a break.